The silence in the mansion was deep, heavy, and cold. Elias Vance, the billionaire, a man who built his fortune on knowing exactly what was coming next, paced the marble hallways of his giant home in Greenwich, Connecticut. It was a home so big it felt empty. His mind, which had solved the trickiest shipping puzzles in the world, wouldn't let him sleep. He was stuck in the middle of the night, alone. Then the great clock in the foyer struck 3 a.m., the chime sounding heavy and slow. And right after the last chime, Elias heard it. A small, strange sound coming from the main kitchen. Scrape. Swish. Click. It was the quiet, rhythmic sound of someone scrubbing a plate. Elias walked the long, silent hallway and pushed open the heavy oak door. The kitchen, designed for giant parties, was dark. Only a tiny yellow light glowed over the stove. And there, standing at the sink, hunched over a mountain of dirty dishes, was a girl. She looked small and thin, her back to him, scrubbing a crystal glass with a focused, desperate energy. Her hands, deep in the hot, soapy water, were already red and raw. Elias cleared his throat. The girl gasped, a sharp sound of pure fear. She spun around so quickly that the glass slipped. "Oh!" she cried, lunging. She grabbed the glass just in time, her small knuckles turning white. Her eyes were wide and filled with a cold terror that was far too big for someone who was just surprised. "And Mr. Vance?" she breathed. Elias flicked on the main white lights. The sudden, sterile brightness made the girl flinch. He saw her clearly, pale, around 17, with dark, bruised circles under her eyes that spoke of profound exhaustion. "Who are you?" Elias asked. I'm Lily Adams, sir. I'm Maria's daughter," she stammered, frantically wiping her hands. Maria Adams was his reliable housekeeper. "What are you doing here at this hour, Lily?" Elias asked. "Where is your mother?" "She's sick, sir. Just a bad cold," Lily lied quickly, too smoothly. "She was worried about the dishes from your party. I told her I'd take care of it so she could rest." Elias looked at the sink. It was piled high with the mess from 30 guests. This was work for 3 people, not 1 child. "Your mother sent you at 3 a.m. to do her work?" Elias questioned, his voice full of doubt. "No." Lily's voice snapped, filled with protective fire. "She doesn't know I'm here. I came in myself. I just wanted to get it done before she woke up so she wouldn't worry." A brave lie, Elias thought. "But I know a flinch when I see one." "You should be in bed," Elias stated. "You have school today." Lily flinched, a tiny movement of defeat. She turned back to the sink, trying to dismiss him. Elias's eyes swept the giant kitchen and landed on a faded, heavy blue backpack resting by the door. Dangling from the zipper was something bright and unmistakable, a blue and gold cord. It was the special cord that only the valedictorian, the smartest student who gives the speech at graduation, wore. Elias looked at the valedictorian's cord. He looked at the mountain of dirty dishes. He looked at the exhausted girl lying to him at 3 a.m. The pattern was broken. "Wait right there. Before we find out what this smart, terrified girl is hiding, you need to join the family. If this story has already hooked you, please take a second to smash that like button. It helps us bring you more amazing true stories like this. And if you want to be the first to know what happens next, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Finally, let us know where in the world you're watching from. Comment below with your country. Now let's get back to the mansion. "Leave the dishes," Elias commanded. Lily froze, suds dripping everywhere. "Sir, please. My mom will get in trouble." "I will handle your mother," Elias said, his voice like cold steel. "Go home, Lily." She pulled off the apron, grabbed her heavy backpack, and slipped out the service door into the cold night. Elias stood alone, his mind racing. He was a billionaire, but he was now obsessed with a mystery. What was a valedictorian doing working at 3 a.m.? At 7 a.m., Elias called his most trusted employee, Mr. Finch. "Finch, I need you to find 2 things. First, our housekeeper, Maria Adams. Why has she missed so many days lately?" "Mr. Vance," Finch's voice was careful. "I was actually preparing to fire her. She's been very inconsistent." "Hold that file," Elias ordered. "Second, her daughter, Lily Adams. A high school senior. I want to know everything. Her school, her grades, her attendance." "Sir, that is very unusual," Finch said, confused. "She was washing my dishes at 3 a.m., Finch. She looked like a ghost, and she had a valedictorian's honor cord. Find out why. Now." All morning, Elias couldn't focus on his shipping empire. He could only see Lily's exhausted face. He also remembered the photo in her backpack, a soldier in an old army uniform. At 4 p.m., Finch walked into the study holding a thin folder. Finch was always calm, but today he looked pale and serious. "Sir," Finch said, placing the file down. "You were right about the girl." Finch showed Elias the first paper. It was a printout from Cypress Creek High showing a beaming photo of Lily. "She is the county valedictorian," Finch explained. "A perfect 4.0 average. She had a full scholarship to Columbia University waiting for her." Elias stared at the paper. A genius girl, throwing away a life-changing opportunity to scrub his dirty plates. "But that is only half the problem, sir," Finch whispered, sliding a second paper over. It was a school attendance report. "I spoke with the principal. As of 25 days ago, Lily Adams stopped going to school." Elias felt a cold shock. 25 days? "Yes, sir. She has missed the deadline to accept the Columbia scholarship. The school had to report her as a dropout. The scholarship, it's gone." The waste of it, the sheer awful tragedy of a bright light being snuffed out, made Elias feel sick. "Why, Finch? Why would she do this? And what about her mother?" Finch's voice was grim. "Maria Adams does not have a bad cold, sir. 2 months ago, she was diagnosed with a very painful, aggressive illness called lupus." Elias listened, his body tense. "The new medicine she needs is expensive. Her insurance calls it experimental and won't pay. The cost is $900 a month just for the pills." Elias heard the number. $900. To him it was less than the cost of one fancy dinner. To this family it was a mountain they couldn't climb. Maria lost her second job because she was too sick to work. Your job is the only thing they have left, and it comes with basic health insurance. They even disconnected their phone to save money. "Lily knows," Elias stated. "She's covering her mother's shifts for free, just so you wouldn't fire Maria and they wouldn't lose the insurance." "Exactly, sir," Finch confirmed. "She's trading her full scholarship, her entire future, just to keep her sick mother covered by basic health insurance." "The soldier, Finch. The photo I saw." Finch slid the last piece of paper onto the desk, a black and white military file. "Captain David Adams," Finch said. "Lily's grandfather. Maria's father. He served in Baker Company, 101st Airborne Division." Elias looked at the name. Then his heart froze. Baker Company. He walked to a framed photograph on his bookshelf, a picture of young men in uniforms smiling in a dusty jungle. "My brother," Elias whispered, his voice cracking. "Ethan. My older brother. He was in Baker Company. He didn't come home." Elias turned back to Finch, his eyes now blazing hard as diamonds. "This is not an employee, Finch," Elias said, his voice full of a new, fierce emotion. This is family." "Sir," Finch started, looking shocked. "Get me their address," Elias commanded, his voice shaking with power and anger. "And find out where Lily Adams is right now. She is finished with throwing away her life." Elias Vance, the billionaire used to talking about oil tankers and global finance, now had only one thought: family. Lily's grandfather, Captain David Adams, was a brother-in-arms to his own deceased brother Ethan. This wasn't charity. This was a debt of honor. Finch quickly found the address, a tired, gray apartment complex in a part of the city Elias hadn't seen in 40 years. Elias didn't take his fancy Rolls-Royce. He drove himself in a plain, modest sedan. He needed to be invisible. The building smelled old and sad, like boiled cabbage and dusty carpets. The concrete stairs were cracked as Elias walked up 3 flights to apartment 3B. He knocked. The sound was too loud in the quiet hallway. He heard slow, painful shuffling inside. The door opened just a crack, held by a thick chain. A scared eye peered out. "Maria," Elias said gently. The door instantly slammed shut. Elias heard a muffled sob, then the rattling of the chain. When the door finally opened again, Maria Adams stood there. She was a ghost. She was years younger than Elias, but she looked decades older. Her hands were swollen, her face was gray with pain, and she leaned heavily on a metal walker. This was not the neat, strong woman who managed his massive house. "Mr. Coleman," Maria gasped, thick with shame. I was going to call. Maria," Elias stopped her softly. "I came to see you." He stepped into the tiny, bare apartment. It was perfectly clean, a sign of Maria's pride, but it was cold. A single, small electric heater glowed weakly in the corner. "I saw Lily last night," he said. Maria's face crumpled. She sank onto the worn sofa. "Oh God. She promised me. I told her not to. I can still work. I just needed a few days." "Maria, why didn't you tell me you were sick?" "And say what?" she whispered, tears finally rolling down her pale cheeks. That I can't do my job? That you should fire me? This job, it's all we have. The insurance pays for the basic doctor visits. It's everything. Elias looked around the tiny room. He knew this was the poverty of impossible choices. The scholarship, Elias said, his voice quiet. The Columbia scholarship. Maria's head snapped up. Her eyes were wide with a new, sharper pain. I know, she choked out. Then she let out a sound. It wasn't a cry, it was a wail of pure, unfiltered despair. I found the letter, she sobbed. The one from the White House, naming her a presidential scholar. I found it, in the trash can. Elias stood silent. I asked her why, Maria whispered, gripping her swollen hands. And she looked at me with those empty, tired eyes and said, What's a scholarship, Mom? Does it pay for your medicine? Does it keep the lights on? Maria shook her head violently. She's throwing it all away. Her whole beautiful life. For me. For $900. Where is she, Helen? Elias asked, his voice now urgent. Where is Lily right now? She got a job, Maria confessed, looking away in shame. A real one. A night shift so she can be here during the day in case I fall. It's at a diner. The Evening Star Diner downtown. Stay here, Elias said. Lock your door. I will be back. The Evening Star Diner was loud, bright, and smelled strongly of stale coffee and grease. Elias Vance, in his expensive wool coat, felt like an alien. He sat in a corner booth, scanning the room. And then he saw her. Lily Adams, the valedictorian, was moving through the crowded tables, balancing a heavy brown tray. Her bright blonde hair was hidden under a blue hairnet. Her uniform was too big with the wrong name, Patty, stitched on the pocket. She moved with a grim, practiced efficiency. She did not smile. Elias watched her run. He watched her struggle when she had to lift a heavy bus tub full of dirty plates. He watched the manager, a short, angry-looking man in a stained white shirt named Mitch, bark an order at her. Lily just nodded, her face blank, and kept moving. She came to clear the booth right next to his. Her arms were overloaded with plates. Lily, he said. His voice was not loud, but it cut through the diner's noise. She froze. The clatter of plates in her hands stopped. She turned slowly and saw him. Her face went from pale to ghostly white. She looked at him. She looked down at her greasy uniform. She looked at the half-eaten burger on the plate she was holding. The tray, overloaded and heavy, slipped from her trembling hands. It hit the floor with a deafening crash. Plates shattered. Glasses exploded. Ketchup and leftover food splattered everywhere. The entire diner went silent. Lily just stood there, staring at the mess, her shoulders beginning to shake. Miller, the manager, Mitch, roared from the counter. What do you think you're doing? That's coming out of your pay. Lily didn't look at the manager. She only looked at Elias. Her eyes, which had been terrified in his kitchen, were now filled with a different, deeper emotion. Utter and complete humiliation. She dropped to her knees and, with her bare hands, started picking up the broken shards of glass. Miller, get a broom. You're lucky I don't fire you on the spot. Mitch was screaming, his face red. That's enough. Elias's voice was low, cold, and heavy with absolute authority. It was the sound of a CEO shutting down a bad deal. Elias stood up and walked straight over, placing himself directly between the shouting manager and the girl on the floor. He was a foot taller than Mitch, and though he was old, he carried an air of terrifying power. Mitch, who had only been focused on the crash, finally looked at Elias. He saw the expensive coat, the gold watch, and the face of a man who belonged on the front page of the Wall Street Journal, not in this greasy diner. And who are you? Mitch blustered, but his voice was shaking. She is a child, Elias said, cutting him off. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out his leather wallet, counting out several $100 bills. He dropped 3 of them onto the counter. That, Elias said, is for the broken plates, for my coffee, and for the inconvenience. Mitch's eyes went wide as he instantly scooped up the money. Elias ignored the manager entirely and crouched down next to Lily. He was now at eye level with her. She was crying, silent tears tracing paths through the grime on her face. Lily, he said, his voice now gentle but firm. Get up. You're leaving. I can't, she whispered, choked. My shift. I need. Your shift is over. He offered his hand. It was a clean, steady hand, a hand that signed billion-dollar contracts. Slowly, trembling, she put her small, greasy hand into his. Elias pulled her to her feet as if she weighed nothing. He kept her hand in his and guided her toward the door, shielding her from the stares of the other patrons. "Wait," Mitch called out, finally realizing he was losing an employee. Elias paused at the door looking back at Mitch. "She's finished," he said. And the way he said it, Mitch knew it was the final, unchangeable truth. Elias guided Lily out into the cold night air, leaving the shattered plates behind. The car was silent and warm, a cocoon against the cold world. Lily sat rigid, vibrating with silent, terrible shame. Elias pulled over on a quiet, tree-lined street and turned on the interior light. He pulled out a small first aid kit from the glove compartment. "Give me your hand," he commanded gently. "No, it's fine," she whispered, trying to hide her hands, which were bleeding slightly from the glass shards. "Lily, give me your hand." She slowly held out her trembling hand. He took it. He cleaned the small cut and wrapped a bandage around her palm with a precise, tender care. "You're welcome," he said after she finally whispered a thank you. "Georgetown," he said, pulling back into the street. "That was the plan. You wanted to work in the State Department." "I wanted to serve," she said quietly. "Then make me understand, Lily. I see a young woman, the top scholar in the nation with a full scholarship to Columbia, and she throws it all in the trash." "I didn't throw it away," she snapped, her voice breaking. The anger and pain finally rushed out. "What choice did I have?" She confessed everything. Coming home from school, finding her mother collapsed on the floor. The doctor's diagnosis. The insurance denial. The $900 medicine cost. Her mother losing her job. "I had to cover her shifts at your house for free, just so Finch wouldn't know she was sick," she cried. "And I got the night job at the diner. I was saving up for the medicine. I almost had it. I just needed one more week." She leaned her head against the cool window glass, spent and empty. "I hate it," she whispered. "I hate it, but I love my mom. I couldn't go to history class. I couldn't write papers on policy while my mom was disappearing. What's a scholarship if I lose my mom?" Elias drove the last few blocks, silent, processing the terrible, heartbreaking choice this child had been forced to make. He pulled up in front of the gray apartment building. "You are very much like your mother," he said. "What?" "You lied to me to protect her," he said, turning to her. "She tried to hide her illness to protect you. You are a family of very proud, very bad liars. And your pride is costing you your future, and it is costing your mother her health. It's our problem, sir. I'll pay you back for the plates. I just don't know how." "Stop talking about the plates," he snapped, annoyance in his voice. "The plates do not matter. The diner does not matter. The $900 does not matter." His voice was now absolute. "Get out of the car. We are going to see your mother." They walked up the 3 flights of stairs. This time Lily was in front, but Elias was right behind her, a steady, implacable presence. Lily fumbled with the key, her bandaged hand making it difficult. She finally got the door open. Maria was sitting exactly where Elias had left her. She looked up and saw Lily safe, but then she saw Elias. She started to sob in shame. "Mr. Coleman, I'm so sorry. I can." Elias walked into the tiny apartment. "You are sorry for being sick," he stated. "You are sorry for loving your daughter. You are sorry for making a promise to a dead man. I am the one who is sorry." He looked at Maria, then at Lily. "Your father, David Adams, was in Baker Company with my brother Ethan Vance," Elias said simply. They looked after each other. "When Ethan didn't come home, David wrote me a letter. He said he promised Ethan that if I ever needed anything he would be there. I am here to tell you that the promise works both ways." Elias pulled out his phone. "Finch is already at the hospital. He has set up a private, long-term health fund for Maria Adams. All experimental treatments, all specialists, and all future care are covered. Starting tonight. The $900 medicine is already being delivered." Lily looked at her mother. Maria's face was frozen in shock, tears running down her cheeks. "But, the scholarship," Lily whispered, looking at the man who had bought her broken plates for $300. "I missed the deadline. My future." "Your future is not gone," Elias cut in. He looked Lily straight in the eye, the same intense look he used when closing a billion-dollar deal. "I don't just ship products, Lily. I ship ideas. I ship solutions. And I need a very smart valedictorian to help me see the patterns I'm missing. You're going to finish high school. You will not miss another day. I own a foundation that supports students of military families. I will personally call the dean at Columbia University tomorrow morning. Your scholarship will be reinstated and you will go to college." Elias took a deep breath. "You told me you wanted to serve. Fine. You will start serving now. I need someone to manage the foundation's new scholarship fund. You'll work for me this summer. Paid, of course. No dishes, no diners. You'll spend every day figuring out how to save other young people who are crushed by this same terrible choice. He looked at Maria. You will rest, Maria. You are not fired. You are promoted. You will be my personal health consultant and manage the housekeeper staff from home, starting tomorrow morning. And you will take your medicine. Elias turned to leave. At the door, Lily finally found her voice. Mr. Vance, she whispered, her voice full of a blinding new hope. Why are you doing all of this? Elias looked back at the tired, tiny apartment, at the sick mother and the broken scholar, and he thought of his brother Ethan, who never came home. Because Lily, Elias Vance said, the great predictor, finally seeing the one pattern that truly mattered. Sometimes a family just needs a little bit of help to keep their promises. He closed the door, leaving the two women alone in the small apartment, wrapped in the warmth of a future that had just been pulled back from the trash.